This will be the lecture on World War I, the overview from 1914 to 1917. And don't forget, if you haven't done so already, to download the overview notes that Mr. Carmichael prepared for you so that way you can type in directly to the notes that have been set up for you. All right, so starting with the World War I overview. World War I lasted for 4 years. Over 10 million people died, and the war cost over $180 billion. World War I changed many things about the international power structure, such as the Austrian and Ottoman empires disappeared, the communists took over in Russia. For the first time, 2 non-European countries emerged as world powers, and that would be the US and Japan, and several new countries were formed. World War I also caused dramatic changes within the countries involved. The Russian Revolution totally changed the Russian government, economy, and social structure and led to even more deaths. Germany went from a monarchy to a democracy to a dictatorship within 15 years. Women gained more rights in several countries, including Britain and the US, and the old elites lost prestige and power in most of the countries that fought. There were 2 main alliances leading into World War I. The first one was the Triple Alliance, which is also known as the Central Powers, and that included Germany, Austria, and the Ottoman Empire as the major powers. So Germany and Austria became allies in 1879. They shared a common goal to protect what they already had. They were also both afraid and felt a need for allies. Germany was afraid for French desire for revenge. Remember, Germany had the region Alsace-Lorraine, which France wanted back. Germany was also afraid of being surrounded by enemies because they're in the middle of Europe. Austria was afraid of hungry neighbors who wanted their land, such as Serbia and Russia. And they were also afraid of revolts from within with all of their different ethnic groups. The Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria also joined the Triple Alliance. And Germany tried to form an alliance with Russia as well to avoid being surrounded, but it was impossible for them to be allied with both Austria and Russia. Again, Russia's trying to take land from Austria-Hungary. It would make it really awkward for Germany if they were allied with Austria-Hungary and Russia, as the two hated each other. And the Triple Entente was France, Russia, and Great Britain. In 1892, France and Russia formed an alliance, and they got together because their biggest enemies were allies. So this is about 10 years after Germany and Austria-Hungary became allies. So France and Russia, who hated Germany and Austria-Hungary, they became allies because their enemies were allies. In 1904, Britain and France got together because they both disliked Germany. And even though they had some disagreements about colonies, they decided they could compromise about those. In 1907, Russia and Britain became allies, and both were friends with France. They didn't really settle their biggest disagreement, which was about the straits. Remember, Russia's biggest goal is warm water port and controlling the straits to kind of let them get out of the small seas around them. The problem with the straits made this agreement very shaky between Britain and Russia. And last but not least, but also very important and key, Britain had a long-standing agreement to protect Belgium. Like from the early 1800s, Britain had agreed to always protect Belgium. This is like several decades before World War I broke out. But it's going to play a large role. Moving on to the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So the assassination itself took place on June 28th, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austrian throne, was assassinated by a Slavic nationalist, a Bosnian Serb living in Bosnia. Despite the fact that the Archduke wasn't that popular back home, this still angered Austria. The assassin, Gavrilo Princip, belonged to the Black Hand, which was a group dedicated to helping Bosnia become a part of Serbia. And remember, Bosnia was a part of the Austrian Empire, and they wanted to separate from Austria and become a part of Serbia. So that's the whole goal of this group. In the aftermath of the assassination, Germany promised their ally Austria that they would back them up no matter what. This is called a blank check because Germany said, pretty much, do whatever you want to do, we will support you. Shortly afterwards, Austria issued an ultimatum, also known as a do this or else, to Serbia. They gave them 48 hours to agree to everything. Otherwise, Austria said they would attack. The terms of the ultimatum included Serbia would issue an apology for the killings. Serbia would close down all anti-Austrian newspapers and clubs. Serbia would fire all anti-Austrian school teachers and army officers. And Serbia would allow Austrian officials to go into Serbia to investigate so they could find out who was involved. Now, at this point, Austria guessed that Serbia was behind the attack, but they weren't sure. So if you think about all of the terms of the ultimatum, Serbia is its own independent country, not controlled by Austria-Hungary. So Austria-Hungary delivered a pretty harsh ultimatum to them. Serbia ended up agreeing to everything except the last term. They did not want to allow Austrian officials to investigate the assassination in Serbia. On July 28th, Austria declared war on Serbia. So, number 3, why did the Austro-Serbian War turn into a world war? Well, it goes back to this system of alliances. So as soon as Austria declared war on Serbia, Russia began to mobilize to protect its ally. Then Germany felt it had to get involved to back up Austria. And we'll talk about this more in class tomorrow.